Hello, hello, hello. It's Lillian Reiki here, the parenting strategist from Parent Support Network. It is awesome to catch you here today if you are live or coming into us via replay. So today is Parent Support Network TV episode number 16. And today I thought I would talk about the rules. You know, parents often talk about how do we get kids to follow the rules? How do we help to instill qualities in our children that we want to grow, that we want to nurture, that we want them to take through from childhood to adolescence to adulthood? And if you've listened into any of my prior work that I do on the Nurtured Heart approach, you will have heard me talk about a concept called upside down parenting. So in the Nurtured Heart approach, we talk about this idea of upside down parenting in respect to us parents or caregivers or educators of children giving more of us, more attention, more energy, more connection, more animation, more of us physically and emotionally when the kids are doing the wrong thing. So when they're breaking the rules, for example, when they're misbehaving, when they're not complying, when they're not being cooperative, when they're mucking up, when they're fighting with their siblings, when they're not doing their homework or the dishes or the chores that we've asked them to help with, when they're being disrespectful, not cooperative, not kind or thoughtful, that's when we tend to give our kids a lot more energy. Now, when you think about it, what are we actually teaching kids when we are energizing them more or coming to life? And we, once again, in the Nurtured Heart approach, say that we're their favorite toy. And as their favorite toy, they get to play with us and figure out when they have more fun with us, when we come to life, when our eyes pop and our hands move and our voice raises and our face goes red, and when we can otherwise be doing something quietly, and then all of a sudden, because of something they do, we then come to life. And it's usually when they do something wrong, when they break a rule, or when they're not displaying a quality that you would otherwise like them to do. And kids actually get to learn that they get the most from their favorite toy, the juiciest connection and relationship, when they're mucking up. And they learn this from a very young age, sadly. And it's not because we as parents are not, loving and thoughtful and want to instill the good things in our kids. It's just that we don't know that we're parenting upside down. Whether you call it instinctive, whether you call it generational, whether you call it just the way that most parents parent, is that we give more energy, more connection, more relationship when they're mucking up. So how does that refer to rules? I'm just checking to see if we are live on the page. How does that refer to, when kids are breaking rules? Because as a good parent, we want to teach our children the rules of the home, the rules of the society, of politeness, of being a good human being. And I think all parents want to teach our kids things like respect, cooperation, justice, kindness, honesty, integrity, thoughtfulness. If you can think of any others, pop them in the chat, please. That's what we really want to teach our children. We want to teach them to have these qualities, not just to follow the rules, but to actually have these qualities that they grow and develop throughout their childhood and into adulthood and out into the big wide world when they go out and start interacting as young adults and perhaps starting relationships and jobs and careers, etc. We want them to be respectful. We want them to be cooperative and kind and just and honest and have integrity and thoughtfulness, etc. We want them to have these qualities. However, as our children are growing up, we often try to teach these rules and qualities when they're being broken. For example, if you are trying to teach your child to be respectful And in the moment, they're being disrespectful. That seems to be when we come in with the lecture or the sermon, or even, said in beautiful, kind words. That's when we try and teach them about respect. So, for example, the child might have just been disrespectful to their sibling, or to the other parent, or to a teacher. And we come in and say, you know what, it wasn't very nice how you just treated your sister. That wasn't being respectful, and it wasn't really being, considerate about the way she thinks. And we come in, and even if it's with a nice, gentle voice, we are actually trying to teach the child about respect when they're being disrespectful. And the child is usually not receptive to that learning at that time, because obviously they've been heightened or they've been annoyed with their sibling, and that's why they treated them in that way in the moment. So the time to treat and teach respect is when they are showing respect, and to energize that beautifully. So, for example, with the same siblings, let's say little brother wants to keep barging into big sister's bedroom and she wants her privacy, and little brother doesn't respect that wish of big sister to be respectful and to value her privacy. In other words, big sister might have a rule, please knock on my door and wait until I say come in before you enter. And little brother just doesn't listen and goes barging into the room with whatever exciting news or whatever he's got, not because he's wanting to be disrespectful to his sister, but just because he might have something exciting to say, or to show, or to do, or sometimes they just want to hang out with their bigger siblings, right? But from big sister's perspective, the little brother was not being respectful of her wishes in that moment. So what we need to look out for is any move towards being more respectful. So, for example, if big sister says, to the little brother, I'm happy for you to come into my room at various times, but out of respect, this is what I would like. I would like you to knock and to wait until I say it's okay, come in. And if I say no, don't come in, be respectful of my wishes. And if they do that, or even if they, move closer towards that, like they might even knock on the door and maybe not wait to say come in, but they still barge in. But that's a step better than not even knocking, because at least it's given big sister the opportunity to know someone's coming into my room if they were, doing something that was private, for example, or, something that they didn't want somebody else to see. So it might be a step closer. So what we need to do is to show that person that in that moment they were being respectful. So, for example, if you were the parent in that situation, you might say, I love how you were moving closer to being truly respectful of your sister. You knocked on the door as she asked you to, and that was a real step forward. And I really appreciate that you are really working towards showing respect for your sister. And I know she'll really appreciate that. Even though he didn't do it perfectly, right? Even though he didn't wait for the okay to come in, he took a step closer. He at least knocked, which was a step closer than prior. He would just barge in. It could be, the child has been disrespectful so dad might be saying, for example, just seeing the child being disrespectful to mum. Let's just use that as an example. And normally dad will come in and go, hey, that's not on. You need to speak, treat your mother with respect. It's not nice, to be treated that way. And I really expect you to be respectful to your mum. And so that's really giving energy to the child when they're not in the receptive mood, when they've been disrespectful because they're heightened, they're angry, they're upset. Usually, otherwise, why would they have been disrespectful? So the idea is to wait until, or to even do what we call hijack, to wait for an opportunity for the child to show respect. So it might even be the child goes up to the mum and stands there for 3 seconds and doesn't yell at them. And you might say, I love how you were just being respectful. You were waiting your turn to, like mum could have been talking to somebody else or to dad, and the child just stood there. And so you could really work on showing them that that's being respectful. I really love how you were just being so respectful to your mum. You could see that we were talking, and I know that you wanted to speak to her, but you stood there and waited. And you know what? That really shows how respectful you were in that moment. And we really appreciate that. Thank you for being such an awesome, respectful kid. So that kid, that child is then going to get to learn that, oh, that's what being respectful is about. And there are so many examples, and you can even hijack them. You know, even if you think they're going to butt in, just say, hey, buddy, awesome. I love how you're just being patient and waiting and being so respectful in this moment, even if they were just about to open their mouths, because you've stopped them in their tracks and you're actually embracing their greatness in that moment, even though they might have been about to break a rule, but you know what, they didn't in that moment. And you can do this with all of the other things you want to grow. Let's say, you know, for example, kindness. You know, you're wanting to teach kindness. So it's not a good time to try and teach kindness when the child is being unkind. If the child just hit or hurt or mucked up their sibling's game, or was nasty, or, you know, was just unkind, that's not a time to come in with the lecture. You were just unkind to your, you know, to your brother or your sister or or whoever the person was. That's not on. You know, we need to be kind to each other. You could even say it in a soft, soothing voice, but it's still giving energy to the negative. It's still giving energy and energizing the fact that the child had just broken the rule or shown that they were being unkind in that moment. So even if you can't teach that lesson in that moment, wait for an opportunity. It might be in the next 10 minutes, in the next half hour, the next hour, or it might not be till the next day. But when you then see the child showing kindness in any shape or form, that's when you come in and say, you know what? I just saw you open the door for that lady that was, you know, in the shopping centre, and you opened the door for her to allow her to go through before you did. You know what? That not only shows you being respectful in this moment, but that shows that you're, you know, such a kind person to be thoughtful enough to say to that lady, after, you know, after you, and open the door for them. That really shows kindness. You really have the greatness of being so thoughtful and so kind. That's how we teach it. So then the kid's like, okay, that's what it means to be kind and thoughtful. But not only that, that's when I'm getting connection, energy, and relationship from my favorite toy at that moment, who might be mum or dad or grandma or grandpa or whoever is with them in that moment, who's energizing that success. That is how they learn to be kind, to be thoughtful. The same with honesty. Like, you know, if a kid is being dishonest or telling a lie, or, you know, what have you, and you know they're being dishonest in that moment, that's not the time to try and teach them about the virtue of being honest. You know, it's important to be honest in life, you know, and that's not the time to give the lecture. We give the lecture when they are being honest, and we lecture them in a positive way. I love how you know, you were being so honest in that moment, and it could even be, you know, the smallest thing. I love how, you know, that you are showing such, you know, amazing qualities of honesty. And you know what that shows me about you? That you're a person with real integrity, and you know that you care about people, and that you want to be truthful, even though sometimes, you know, it's hard to be honest, because, you know, we don't want to say that we made a mistake or that we did that thing. But you know, the fact that you showed me and told me the truth in this moment just shows me you have such greatness and you are such an honest person. That's when we teach honesty. So is this all making sense? So it's really about thinking about, you know, the rules and the qualities that you want to grow in your children, and looking for the opportunities to tell them that they have that greatness, that they are following that rule, that they are following the rule of, you know, being honest or kind or thoughtful or respectful in the home. Or this could even, you know, work with teachers in the classroom as well. That's when we teach the rules. We don't teach the rules when they've broken a rule and then we chastise them or give them that lecture. And sometimes we think just because we give them a kind lecture and say it in a kind voice, you know, trying to teach them in that moment, it's still not the right time to teach them. So think about the qualities that you're wanting to grow in your children or in each other. It doesn't just refer to children. It can, you know, just be for example, if integrity is really important to you and you're in some sort of business relationship or working with another person and you felt that they were not being integrous at a certain time, that's not the time to talk about the fact that you don't like the fact that wasn't integrous or that they weren't showing integrity, but then find an opportunity of when integrity is being shown and say, you know what, I love how you just, tackled that challenge and how you dealt with that and what you came up with. You know what, that really shows me as a person that you have a lot of integrity. And I love that, that we have a relationship where we, have integrity within this relationship or with this business. That's when you show the person that you value their integrity, not when they're not showing it. And I know it's kind of human nature to want to come in and say, you weren't being integrous, or you weren't being kind, or you weren't being honest. But if we want to grow that, we do it when they're either showing it or even moving, like especially with kids, even just baby steps towards showing that. So you can pick any of those, any rule in your home. It could be about doing the dishes, for example. When dinner's finished, the whole family get up, take their dishes to the sink. We all help. People might have certain jobs, or we just all pitch in. Somebody washes, somebody stacks the dishwasher, somebody dries, wipes down the benches or takes the things off the table, and everybody is cooperating together. So that's when we actually encourage each other, and that's when we actually show our appreciation for that effort that's being made around clearing the dishes, not when they're not doing it right, not when, why don't you ever help with the dishes? Because the kid's just going to get aggravated and say, well, they're not going to be happy. But if you actually give them some juicy recognition when they do help, even if it's just a small thing, even if it's just picking up their own plate and taking it over to the sink. I love how you just, I just saw you pick up your plate and take it over to the sink and pop it in the sink or pop it in the dishwasher. And you know what? That really shows me that you're a team player, that you're helping it, even if it's just small and you think, why should I thank them for taking their own plate? They should just do that. And yes, they should. But by telling them and showing them in that moment, then that's teaching them. That's teaching them how to be a team player, how to follow the rules. So I'll leave it at that for now. Just know that you can apply that to any rule, to any quality that you want to grow in your children, in other people in your home, and even in yourself, right? You can even recognize yourself, for something that you've done. If you maybe get off track on something sometimes and then you moved closer to it, go, well done, Lillian. I love how you were just so thoughtful in that moment. You really could have, said to that person, something negative, but you didn't. And you were quite thoughtful in the way you handled that. Well done. Pat yourself on the back, give yourself some recognition as well. So I'll leave it at that. I do just want to finish off by saying that for those of you who are interested in doing my next Nurture Your Heart to Greatness course, my 9-week course, we were going to start that in February. But it seems like for a lot of families, they're busy getting, kids settled in school and so forth. So I've had some feedback from people that March is going to be a better time. So please do let me know if you are interested in joining us. I'm hoping it will be earlier in March, maybe the 1st or 2nd week of March, just depending on when people are ready. I am looking to have 10 families or at least to participate, or around 10 families to participate, to make it really viable and to make it really great and interactive. So please do reach out and let me know if you've got any questions, or if you'd like to have a chat about the course or how it works or the costing or anything like that, let me know. I did put out a price at the last masterclass that we did in January, and I am looking to revise that price. So if you would like to come into the next course on the price that was advertised in the last masterclass, please do let me know. I'm just going to ask for a $77 deposit to secure your spot at that price, because I will be reviewing the prices moving forward. So that's it from me, Lillian Reiki, parenting strategist from Parent Support Network, episode 16 today. And I hope you enjoyed our discussion about, you know, teaching children rules and growing qualities that we want to grow in our children, each other and ourselves. So Lily and Ricky, parenting strategists, are helping parents and caregivers of children to enjoy happy and healthy children and relationships on purpose. That's it from me. Bye for now.